Okay, so we are up to the next part of this very basic introduction to Node.js in Business Application Studio and BTP, where we're going to use a third-party module from Node.js to call a web service. Now, very similar functionality is offered, in the SAP Cloud SDK. Uh, but I'm going to reference Axios, just merely as an example of using a third-party library overall. And of course, Axios, think of it if you've done web service integration like the CL HTTP client for REST calls, Axios does this exact same thing. So let's go over to BAS and check out what's going to be involved with using Axios to do REST service integration. Okay, so if you recall from our last video, we did our first push of the repository to GitHub. And with that, we also added Axios to our application. So in this index.js, we're going to do some use of Axios to show you how third-party libraries work in Node.js. So if I go to the top here and I go to Axios equals require Axios, there we have that that library loaded, and we want to set some options to do an HTTP call. So let's say let options equal, we just do these curly braces here. And give me a minute. I got to look up, remind myself how to do this. I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so I'm back. Like any developer, I had to take a few minutes to just work through things, Google a couple of things, figure out what was going wrong, and make some things I've fixed a dozen times before. But that's life, right? So we've made some changes to this app. So of course we did Axios to make a web request, and then we got the data back. And what I did was I wrote a small little for loop here that will take those 10 results that we retrieved and then just print them out in the command line. So you see if I run npm run start, there's our data coming out. And of course, earlier when I was still making a few mistakes, I got some weird results in the command line, and then I had some errors too. So this is a good time, after you've done some development and you're at a good stopping point, to do another commit, right? Normally when we're in ABAP, we think about, only releasing the task when we're going to go to QA. Your mindset should be different with Git. You should always be thinking about using Git as like this checkpoint system to always save your little Node.js programming game as you go along. So what I'm going to do in this case is I could do a Git add period to stage everything, but I'm going to be specific and say, Git add index.js. And if I go ahead with that, I could push to the main branch, but let's do something a bit different. Let's actually commit this to a dev branch. So if I go git branch dev, that's going to create a second track of development here. We can do, but we also have to do git checkout dev, right? So now when we do this, we're going to do our commits to a dev branch, and you'll see in another video why we would do that. So if I go git checkout dev, let's do a git commit m. And you want to give a little note of what you changed, right? Update for async. So what do? We update async, we parse the REST API response. Enter. And now that we've committed that, we're going to push to dev, right? So if I go git push origin dev. Fantastic. So we pushed this new code that I created to a dev branch. Let's check out what our repository looks like now. So if I look here, my original main branch is still pretty basic, but if I go look at the dev branch, now you can see I have done this where I've made all my changes. So we'll stop right there for now, and we'll hit on some CI/CD and some other things about doing pull requests next.